Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at a cute but dangerous Guru commander. So stay tuned as we talk about Kibo, Uktabi Prince. But before we jump into today's video, I want to make a shout out for Mythatom. Check out their high quality Magic the Gathering and other fantasy products via the link in the notes below and use my discount code LATSEL for 10% off your order. One of you guys has requested that I go a little bit into the strengths and weaknesses of the type of decks that I'm always presenting, and I'm trying to remember that in every video that I make. When it comes to Kibo, I believe that he has two big weaknesses, but from reading this card you already see that he can also provide a lot of strength. One of the bigger weaknesses of him is that he gives your opponents extra mana. In addition to creating those bananas, he also needs to be tapped, but in the best case we always want him to be untapped, since we also want to attack with him to get his attack trigger. We can counter this weakness by giving him vigilance. There are a few artifacts in my list that give the equipped creature vigilance, which can negate that weakness. Furthermore, we can also play into the artifacts that we give our opponents by playing cards that burn them for cracking artifacts. There are also a few in my list, but it's not as many as you might find in other lists. The second weakness of Kibo is that his Anthem mechanic only works for monkeys and apes. I have checked all of them and I have only found a few ones that are playable, because even though I want to play this deck on theme by playing a bunch of apes or monkeys, I still wanted to create a deck that can definitely perform. But I'd say let's get right into it. Here are a few apes that I personally think are playable. We will start off with Flopsy, Burmese Body. This one isn't out yet, but it is coming with the Avatar set. It is a great creature as it provides more +1/+1 counters, and after a certain power threshold of your creatures, they will only be blockable by one creature. I think Flopsy is definitely a playable card in this deck, even though it costs 6 mana. The next creature that I'm featuring in this list is Gearbane Orang-Utan. This one comes from the Murders at Call of Mana set, and there are a few things that I like about this card. First of all, it has reach. Reach is an underrated keyword, especially in Commander, and you can be sure that you will see a few flyers of your opponents which won't be coming at you if this guy is big enough. Sure, its ETB trigger is only a one-time thing, but you can destroy up to any one artifact of your opponents, which can trigger your commander, or you can also sacrifice a synergistic piece of yours to make him even bigger if you need a powerful reach creature immediately. I have also added Hooting Mandrills to my list. This is a powerful Delve card and is widely known in Modern. But the reason why I added this card is simply because you can discount it due to Delve, and in addition to that, it is not always guaranteed that you start with this card in your opening hand. This means over the course of the game you will accumulate cards in your graveyard, and if you finally draw into this card, it will most likely be a 1 mana 4/4 with Trample. Another really powerful 1-drop is Curd Ape. This is not the most impressive creature, I gotta say that, but I think for 1 mana, and especially since you're in a Gruul deck, you will most likely always have a forest, this will be a 1 mana 2/3. And as soon as you get one of your Kibo triggers, this creature will just scale and scale. Next is Scrounging Bandar. There are a few additional +1/+1 counter synergies in this deck, and I like the theme of this card as we can move any number of +1/+1 counters from it to another creature, which means that we can always leave a few on this creature so it doesn't die, and with Kibo we can keep putting additional +1/+1 counters on this one. Another really cool ape is Summit Ape. This is a 4 mana 5/2, and in the most cases it will always have Menace in your deck, as you will most likely always have a mountain in this deck on the battlefield. There are a few more monkeys in this deck, so don't worry, I will feature those, but these are definitely a few that I think are playable in this list. But now let's take a look into a few artifacts and enchantments that we also play in this list. Starting off with Descendant to Avernus. We want to make our opponents put a bunch of artifacts into their graveyard with Kibo on the battlefield, and since we are on a beatdown approach with our creatures, Descendant to Avernus feeds perfectly into our strategy. Everybody will take damage from Descendant to Avernus, but will also create artifacts in return. By cracking those artifacts, our opponents will anthem up our board, and in many cases they won't even realize how big our board becomes in one turn cycle, so we can then swing for the win. Another really cool card is Magnetic Mine. We will use this card for additional burn against our opponents, and what I like about this card is that it's an artifact, which makes it way harder to get rid of for our opponents, as the most widely known removal spells are for creatures, and not everybody is running artifact removal. Another card that seems a bit underrated in this deck is Monkey Cage. Sure, your opponents can play a smaller creature into this one, but because Monkey Cage costs 5 mana, it will most likely happen in the mid game when you commit this one to the battlefield, and one of the least things that your opponents want to do is play a smaller creature in the mid game where they actually want to accelerate. And even though if you only get 3 monkeys out of this one, they will still profit from Kibo's triggered ability. To make our creatures scale even faster, we also play Sphere Fear Grid. This enchantment will give our creatures reach and trample, which are important keywords, and on every connect with our creatures we will put +1/+1 counters on them. I have talked about artifacts that will give Kibo vigilance to make him more powerful when it comes to his attack trigger and also his activated ability. For which reason we play Sting, the Glinting Dagger. This will untap him in every combat, which means that in one turn cycle we can create a bunch of tokens for our opponents, blow them all up in our turn, get a bunch of Kibo triggers and then swing with him and kick a player out. We also go with Tarian's Soul Cleaver. This is probably one of the best artifacts in this deck because the equipped creature gets vigilance, which is great for Kibo, and whenever a creature or an artifact is put into a graveyard, we will put a +1/+1 counter on the equipped creature. This counts for our opponents and it also counts for artifacts, which makes Tarian's Soul Cleaver definitely a threat for your opponents. And now let's talk about a few really powerful creatures in this deck. Starting off with Taurian Mauler. We play this card because it is a shapeshifter and with that also a monkey or an ape. In addition to that, its triggered ability shouldn't be underestimated because within one turn cycle it can definitely become a huge threat for your opponents. When it comes to shapeshifters, we also play Chameleon Colossus. This one has a great and really powerful activated ability, and in addition to that, it having protection from black makes it really hard for your opponents to interact with this one if they are playing a bunch of creature removal. Because we want to draw only gas, we need to thin out our deck from all those lands. Since we are in Gruul colors, we play a bunch of basic lands, and because of that, we also play Kodama of the West Tree. This is not an ape or a monkey, but its triggered ability is extremely useful, and giving our modified creatures trample is a great thing in addition to that. We will thin out our deck from all those lands and get a huge mana advantage with this one. I have added Sardian Avenger to my list. I think this creature is underrated in this deck. I really like that it has First Strike, which makes it a powerful attacker, even though it won't profit from Kibo's triggered ability. I also like the additional burn it provides whenever an artifact is put into our opponent's graveyard. Earlier I have talked about that we just want to blow up all of our opponent's bananas. This is why we play Bane of Progress. Sure, this will also target our artifacts and enchantments, but if the timing is right, we can win the game with this one on the spot. As an alternative Wincon, we also play Bloodroot Apothecary. Sure, winning with poison counters isn't the coolest thing, many players say that, but I think in this deck it is definitely fine and has a really cool theme. Let's talk about a few instant and sorceries that we play in this deck. We play Brotherhood's End. This can either serve as an early board wipe, and in the best case, when our monkeys are big enough, we can clear the path with this one, or we will just call that we want to destroy all artifacts, which can give us a huge trigger amount from Kibo. We also play Demand Answers for additional card advantage. We can cast this one by either discarding a card or sacrificing an artifact. This might be interesting for us if we have a huge mana advantage but are lacking in cards. Another great card in this deck is Meltdown. We will cast this one for 1 mana and pay nothing into the X to blow up all of those bananas. A really cool and also really cute sorcery that we play is Fate from History. Sure, we will give all of our opponents a bear with this one, but as soon as we blow up all artifacts and enchantments, we can swing for the win. When it comes to blowing everything up and also giving a bunch of our creatures additional keywords and Anthem, we play Season of Gathering. We will use its 1-paw mode 3 times and the 2-paw mode just once. With that, we will give Vigilance and Trample and a +1/+1 counter to 3 creatures of ours, and then we will choose to blow up all artifacts. With that, we will get even more Kibo triggers, and then we can swing freely for the win. Since this deck doesn't go really wide, but really big, we also play Overwhelming Stampede to secure our win with this card. And if you want to win even more games, stay tuned and listen to these cards. When it comes to mass artifact destruction, we gotta play Vandal Blast. A bunch of the cards that I have featured will also blow up our artifacts, but Vandal Blast will only blow up all artifacts of our opponents. To make sure that we are pretty safe during our turn, we play Manglehorn. Once we tap Kibo, we will give our opponents a banana. But with Manglehorn, that artifact will come into play tapped. My personal favorite monkey, and it's also a really strong creature, is Silverback Elder. I know this card from my Gwenna deck, and when you cast just a few creature spells with this one, you will have a huge payoff. All of its modes are really helpful in Commander, and if that one doesn't get countered and you cast immediately something afterwards, it will definitely provide a payoff for you. Since Kibo's activated ability taps him, we want to have even more value from that. This is why we play Marvin, Murderous Mimic. He will copy Kibo's activated ability, which means that we can attack with Kibo if he doesn't have Vigilance, and in one of our opponent's end step we will just tap Marvin to create an artifact for all of our opponents. And now for the last 2 cards I want to feature a few top-end apes. Kogla Antidaro is an extremely powerful card in my opinion. I play this card in my Vita Enrage combo deck because of its activated ability where you can channel it from your hand. And the great thing about that artifact and enchantment destruction is that the creature shuffles itself back into your library and then you draw a card. Which means that you don't lose a card, you go card neutral, and you also destroy an artifact or enchantment, which in this deck also benefits you because you will get another Kibo trigger. And when the time is right, you can also commit this one to the battlefield to either have a fight mechanic or to have a hasty trampling creature. And if we are playing Kogla and Hidaro, we also play Kogla, the Titan Ape. On ETB it will fight a problematic creature that we are facing, and on every attack we can blow up an artifact or enchantment of our opponent that we are attacking. Sure, we won't have too much use of its activated ability, even though there are 1 or 2 humans in my list, but it's still a really powerful monkey that can definitely win us the game. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Kibo. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.